Hello, welcome to the Nigerian Investors podcast, the unofficial podcast that tracks and reports on the activities of the Nigerian boss. My name is Moody, and with my colleague Aye, we will be hosting this podcast. TNI podcast is dedicated to stimulating a renewed enthusiasm among the general population with regard to the activities of the Nigerian Stock Exchange. Ultimately, the goal of TNI is to see that many Nigerians from all walks of life, both at home and in the diasporas, become active participants on the floor of the Nigerian Stock Exchange. Before we go further, we would like to place on record TNI podcast is solely for educational purposes and not a replacement for professional financial advice. Let's begin. Hello, welcome back to the Nigerian Investors podcast, TNI for short, the favorite podcast about investment activities in Nigeria with special focus on the stock market in Nigeria. Today, we are having another episode that we want to share with our listeners, and I'm here with my co-host, Aye.
Good morning, listeners. Nice to be here.
Thank you. What do we have for our listeners today?
So, on this episode, we'll be talking about rights issues. I think this is a good one. We've seen a lot of companies, especially banks, issuing rights this period to raise capital from the market. And it's possible that some of our viewers are wondering what is a rights issue? What does it mean? What's going on? So, this episode, we're hoping to just demystify all of this and just give you more information and help you understand what it is and possibly even how you can make money off of it.
Okay. And also, the other reason why we want to do this episode is because some new investors that have been listening to this podcast and they've been inundated with so many emails regarding right issues from their stockbrokers as well as from registrars. And most of them, they've been screenshotting these emails to me. At first, I tried to explain to individuals, but I found out that most people, they keep coming with the same questions and all that. So I think it's better if we just do an episode on right issue, and whoever that is asking any question in the future, we can just direct them to this episode. I think that makes a lot of sense.
So we are hoping that moving forward, this will just serve as a standpoint, a guide. In future, whenever a company is proposing a right issue to shareholders, that you can just fall back on this episode and get all the insights.
Yes, that's it. Right issue is a financial mechanism that is employed by companies to raise capital by offering additional shares to existing shareholders. It provides the shareholder the right but not the obligation to purchase more shares, and it comes at a discounted price within a specified time frame. In other words, right issue is something that is offered to an existing shareholder by a listed company because they want to raise additional funds instead of going to the banks to get loan that will come with additional interest. The key word here is right. You have the right to partake in the right issue, but it's not an obligation that you must partake in the right issue. You might decide to forgo the right issue and not participate.
Exactly. Yeah. Just exactly what Modi is saying, because the whole point of a rights issue is basically to give shareholders the opportunity to maintain their percentage holdings in the company. Because once a company is going to raise more equity, right, that means that there's likely going to be dilution for shareholders. Imagine owning 100% of a company and you now need to raise external funding from a third party. That third party coming into your company is obviously going to dilute your ownership down from 100%. That's just one way
Yes.
to keep just one way to look at it. So the right issue is just basically a way of a company saying, okay, let's raise equity, right? But let's give our current shareholders the opportunity to be the ones to raise that equity. And we're going to do it in we're going to structure it in such a way that you will be able to buy equal percentage stake, right, in the rights equal to what you already own in the company, such that you can maintain your current percentage in the company. Of course, you have to decide if you want to participate. But if you don't want to participate, obviously your percentage ownership in the company is going to be diluted.
Yes. Yeah, it's going to be diluted. Thank you so much, Ayi, for that. There's a mechanism that is usually followed when a right issue is about to be done by a company. The mechanism of a right issue, it usually begins with the process whereby the company's board of directors approve the right issue. And they also determine the number of shares to be offered, that is the additional shares, because a right issue, let's get the facts straight. It means there's going to be additional share to the outstanding share of the company. For instance, if the outstanding share of the company is 2 billion units of shares, and there's going to be right issues, the board of directors might decide to add additional 500 million shares to the total outstanding share. It's going to take the total outstanding share from 2 billion outstanding shares to 2.5 billion outstanding shares. That's what Aye was trying to explain. They do it in such a way that it will be fair to everybody, all shareholders, irrespective of whether you own 10 shares or you own 100 shares or you own 1 million shares in the company. They do this by dividing the new shares that they want to offer to the existing shareholders in form of ratio. For instance, you will hear ratio 1 to 2, ratio 1 to 5. This simply means that for every 5 shares you own in the company, you are only permitted to buy just one additional share. If it's ratio 1 to 2, it means that you can't buy more than one share for every 2 shares that you own in the company. If you do the mathematics, you find out that irrespective of the fact that you own 1 million shares in the company or you own 100 shares in the company, you're not going to increase your stake more than the other person that owns less than you. It's going to be equal across board. That is one thing that the board of directors will also have to look at. Another thing they have to look at as well is the duration of the right issue. Most right issues are usually done under 1 month, but sometimes when the right issue is not fully subscribed to, they might decide to extend it. We've seen cases in the past whereby they extend right issue by at least maybe 1 to 2 weeks. Another thing again in the mechanism of right issue is that the board of directors, they also have to give the existing shareholder this right issue at a discount price. That is the price that the share of that company is currently being sold on the secondary market. When we say secondary market, we're referring to the stock exchange where you buy stock. If the shares of the company is currently being sold for, let's say, 26 naira, the board of directors might decide to bring the right issue at a discount price of, let's say, 24 naira 50 kobo or 25 naira. That's a discount. It means you're going to buy the share of that company at a lower price compared to the existing current share price on the secondary market. But because the stock market does fluctuate, the price does fluctuate, there's possibility that the secondary market price might fall below the discount price that is being offered, or it might increase more than that discount price. So it depends on our market sentiment and how people view the stock at that particular point in time.
Yeah, just to add to what Modi has said, the whole point of that discount is obviously to encourage shareholders to participate in the right issue, right? So that
Yes.
shareholders can get the opportunity to instantly make profit by just buying the stock at a lower price than the current trading market. But like Modi has said, it depends on a lot. The stock will drop in price so much so that the offered right issue price is even higher than the current market price, and that advantage is sort of lost. But like we always say, this is an opportunity to sort of buy more ownership of a company, and you have a fixed price that is being offered to you, and then you have a variable price on the market. Obviously, it's advantageous to buy if the stock market price is cheaper than the offered price of the right issue. Obviously, it is better, but you might just find that stock volatility might just take the secondary market price above the right issue price, and then all of a sudden it becomes more attractive. So these are the little things that you need to just keep in mind about rights issue. But I don't know if you've mentioned some shareholders can even sell their rights.
Yeah, so we'll come to that. Before we
Okay,
talk about that, let's look at why do companies in the first place, why do they engage in right issue? One of the reasons why, if the company wants to expand, we have companies that maybe want to merge with other companies, they want to outrightly buy out other companies in order to expand their spheres of operation. They can decide to do right issue in order to raise the fund for that expansion. Some companies too, they're going to right issue, especially these pharmaceutical companies. Pharmaceutical companies, they are always into research and development of new drugs in order to expand their market base and all that. So they might also decide to, because research got a lot of money, they might decide to do right issue in order to get capital for the research and development. Another reason why companies also go for right issue is recapitalization. And I think Aye will explain that to our listeners. Aye, what do you have to say about recapitalization?
basically the banks, their business is based on giving out loans and having capital buffers, right, that can allow them to absorb losses on these loans. The CBN trying to build up the Nigerian economy, and the banks are the key role players in doing that, giving out loans to businesses. They want the banks to be resilient enough to give out these loans, right? I mean, we see banks right now, they are not really giving out a lot of money to the real economy. Most of them are just playing on the fixed income market, and that's where they're making their bread and butter, the fixed income market, the foreign exchange markets. For that to happen, banks need to be able to give out more loans to traditional businesses. And for that to happen, banks need to show up their capital base. So that's what we're seeing right now with this recapitalization exercise. It's just basically to improve their capital adequacy ratios and be able to take on more risk. So yeah, that's basically what the idea of recapitalization is.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Then another reason why companies might decide to go for right issue is crisis management. Maybe a company is raising funds to navigate through a difficult they might also decide to do that. We've seen companies done that before in the past. Because right issue, let's just get the fast straight. It is interest free. Also, it gives them that leverage in order for them to be able to outbid their competitors. Let's face the fact, most of these companies that are listed in the stock market, they have competitors. If you look at each of these sectors, if you look at agricultural sector, they are competing against one another. You look at every other sector, banking sector is the same thing. You look at industrial sector is the same thing. It gives them that competitive edge if they have additional capital that they can use to boost their product and services to the general public.
One of the questions that you probably get a lot with the right issue is, okay, how do I participate? If I want to participate, how do I participate? So you can do that simply by logging on to the exchange website and checking out the NGX Invest section.
Okay, that's a good one. Another way through which you can participate in right issue traditionally is through your stockbroker. They might reach out to you. That's what most people have been experiencing. That's one of the reasons why we're doing this episode. So your stockbroker will send you an email containing the prospectus of the right issue, asking you to partake in the right issue. So you can download the form, complete the form. They will also give you idea on how to make the payment. You make the payment, you send them evidence of the payment and the completed form to them. That way you can participate in the right issue. There's some companies too, they have dedicated website whenever they are undergoing right issue. For instance, I know UBA, they have a dedicated website for their right issue. You can also log on to that website, just like the NGS website that I just mentioned. And you can also complete the right issue process there too. And registrars too, they are also involved in right issue. They can also reach out to you about the right issue through email. And once you get that, you can also complete the form, make payment. And before we quickly move on, we need to talk about if a company is participating in the right issue, what are the three outcomes? Because we say right issue is specifically for existing shareholders. And as a shareholder, if you get the email about right issue, there are three things you can do. You have three options. One, you can participate in the right issue. Two, you can decide not to do anything about the right issue because you don't have any obligation to participate in the right issue. So you can choose not to, just ignore the right issue process. Then three, you can decide to sell your right issue to the secondary market. And how do you do that? You complete a form, you notify your stockbroker that you don't want to participate in the right issue. Rather, you want to sell your right issue to the general public. So you can decide to sell it to the secondary market. They will put the additional shares that is supposed to be accruable to you. They put it on the secondary market for non-investor in the company to partake in the right issue. Those are the three outcomes of right issue for individuals that are supposed to participate in the right issue. Aye, what do you think would be the disadvantages of right issue? What are some of the things that might be drawbacks in your own opinion?
So when the company's rights issue is priced higher than the current market price due to volatility in the market, there can be that disadvantage of, okay, investors would rather buy directly from the stock market than to participate in the rights issue. And I think we saw some of that during this bank capitalization exercise. Some investors were like, yeah, it's better to buy from the market than participate in the rights issue. And they were, I mean, you have to do what's good for your money, right? If you find it
Yeah.
cheaper to buy from the market than participate in the rights issue, you're not encouraged to participate in the rights issue. Another problem with rights issue is the limited fundraising. So rights issue can limit the amount of capital that companies can raise, as
Okay.
opposed to using a initial public offer, because I mean they have to consider current existing shareholders before they are going forward with the rights issue. I think companies often mitigate this by doing both rights issue and public offer when they want to. I think that's what we've been seeing with the capitalization exercise, right? So that's one
Yes.
of the disadvantages, right? So it is a
Mm-hmm.
limited amount of capital that companies can capture with the right issue, and that can also be a problem. Then there is also
Yeah.
the share price impact, right? So share prices can tend to decrease after a right issue has been announced because the market begins to perceive the right issue as a sign that the company needs additional funds. And that might be seen as like negative by some people that the company
Yes.
is probably not
Negative market
self-sufficient.
perception.
Exactly. So that can be a problem for some companies, right? So yeah, those are just some of the issues that we probably see with rights issues. But
Yeah.
then again, this is always a trade-off.
Yeah.
It's always a question of how do you balance these things. Companies need to raise external funding from time to time, and one of the ways they would often do this is the right issue. So I think it's just a question of what is the company going to use this money for? How productive is the company going to be with the money and all of that? So yeah, that's just one way of seeing it.
That's true. A market perception, because don't underrate investor sentiment when it comes to trading in the stock market. That plays a lot of role in the price movement. Another disadvantage that I think of right issue is that the time it takes to process the allotment and all that. To me personally, because I've participated in right issues in the past before, it takes a lot of time to go through this allotment before you finally get your shares that you bought for in the right during the right issue. Or like when you buy from the secondary market, once your order is filled, you get your shares that you bought instantly in your portfolio, and you can better manage it immediately. But for right issues, it takes a lot of time, probably some weeks after the right issue is completed before you finally lay your hands on your stock, on your additional shares. So I think that could be a disadvantage for me. I think it's a disadvantage. Moving forward, let's look at some of the right issues that are currently taking place. Like I said, most of the right issues that are ongoing right now, they are mainly banks, because of this recapitalization with CBN. So most of these banks, UBA, First Bank, Wema Bank, they either have started or completed their right issues. I know Wema Bank completed its right issues recently, and it was 99.9% subscribed to. And they were able to raise about, I think, 40 billion naira. And this money they plan to use it to strengthen their loan portfolio, like I rightly explained, and also to meet up with the requirements set by CBN. And First Bank, the other day I got an email from my stockbroker about First Bank undergoing their right issue. And I think the discount price for First Bank right issue is 25 naira per share. And I look at the current share price of First Bank, is around 26 naira and some kobo, meaning the right issue is more, when you look at it, is more advantageous if you partake in it compared to when you buy from the secondary market. Although you have to wait until the right issue is completed before you get the allotted shares that you bought during the right issue, as compared to when you buy from the secondary market and you get it immediately. So those are some of the uh, companies that I know of that are currently or have recently concluded their right issues. Aye, do you know of any other company that is still in trying to or currently having the right issue?
Let me even check and confirm. I think Nigerian breweries mentioned.
Good. I like the fact that you mentioned that, because I want the listeners to also understand that it's not just banks that can
Yeah,
uh,
it's not just that.
partake in right issues. Okay, so I like the fact that you mentioned that.
Yeah, so Nigerian breweries, I think they are proposing their own rights issue. Yeah, at 26.5 naira per share, and the offer was made to existing shareholders from September 2nd and was extended to October 18th. So I think this has actually ended. The rights
Okay.
issue was 91.6% subscribed. So like you said, yeah, there's often that investors apathy, right? So I mean, Nigerian breweries is struggling currently due to the Nigerian foreign exchange issue, and they're trying to fix all that by raising capital. And I guess investors too are also being cautiously optimistic about some of these things. Um, so yeah, that's what we've seen so far.
That's good. I like the fact that they were able to get at least more than 90%. To me, that's successful. irrespective of the fact that they had to extend it and all that. But that's successful.
Yeah.
But Aye, would you like to conclude this? Would you like to conclude this episode for us?
So yeah, I would say whatever, just like every other thing, right? There are advantages, there are disadvantages, there are trade-offs, there are opportunities, and sometimes you have to consider these opportunities relative to what you currently have. What's that saying? A bird in the hand is what's two in the bush, or what more than two in the bush.
And a
It's
thousand in
always
the bush.
important to look at these things, look
Yeah.
at these things independently, right? And then relative to what you currently have, right? So a company is proposing the right issue. What is the
Yeah.
advantage to you as a shareholder? If I participate in this right issue, I'll be buying the stock at maybe 20% discount, right, to the current price. That's an advantage. That's a plus to you as a shareholder. And if this company's management
Mm-hmm.
has a history of constantly using funds wisely, right, and growing the company's value over the long term, is also worth considering. But of course, you have to also
Yeah.
consider this relative to other opportunities that are currently available to you on the stock market, because it's your money,
Yeah.
and like we always say, you are the CEO of your own money. You are the owner of your own money, right? So it's up to you now to start figuring out what's more advantageous to you. Do you want to participate in this right issue, right? Or do you want to put your
Mm-hmm.
money elsewhere? So these are the things we encourage you to think about. So it's not just that because a company is issuing rights to shareholders, therefore you must participate, right? You have to consider it relative to other opportunities and try and see whether these other opportunities are more profitable to you. Yeah. So that's what I would say.
Okay. Thank you so much, Ayi, for that. And to our listeners, now you know more about right issues. And next time when you receive an email from your stockbroker or from your registrar about buying additional shares through a right issue, you know what it is and you know how to go about it. Thank you for listening to another episode of the Favorite podcast that brings insight to the Nigerian stock market. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. To get more episodes like this, follow us on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, as well as on our website. All this information is available in the show note below this episode. Until we bring you another episode your way next week. Bye for now. TNI podcast is executive produced by Moody. This episode was edited by Rona at Rock Quarry Village Studio.